Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Five-1 Speedway show. Tonight my guest is a personal favourite of mine. He was one of my hero growing up when I was a kid. I also rode underneath his promotion in the first year in 2015. I pretty much know this guy's racing career inside out, so it's going to be a good one for all the Eastbourne and Oxford fans tonight. Please welcome to the show, Martin Dugard.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening. Oh, dear. So how's everything with you today at the moment, Martin?
Yeah, it's like everybody, isn't it? We're in this lockdown. We're all just sort of cruising through it. Whether it's the right way or wrong way, it's down to what you make of it. And yeah, we're just plodding through like everybody else, just knuckling down, trying to be as good as we can, and just getting on with life.
Yeah, best you can, really. I mean, I know myself. I've been a key worker and everything. I've worked all through the pandemic, so it's been crazy, weird, but it's the new world we live in at the moment.
Yeah, I sometimes I forget when I get out of the van just to go strolling into, say, Wicks or somewhere like that, and all of a sudden it's like mask, must have mask on. But yeah, there are reasons why we got to wear a mask, and I think it's unusual for us to have to wear a mask. But you think about all the Chinese, Taiwanese, for years they've always done it, shopping the lot. So maybe it's the way future for all of us at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you see those sort of people walking around London and places like that with masks and everything all on. So yeah, it's just going to probably be the new normal, for at least for another year, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's in everybody's interest, not just ours.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, mind you, in 2020, you had a certain Tom Brand to keep you busy, riding around a bit around Europe and things like that. So, did you enjoy doing that last year?
It was different. I have to say. I did enjoy it. Did enjoy going out and having a look around, because this time we're travelling completely different. Instead of having the pressure of racing, and that the pressure was now on us to make sure that everything that Tom was using was working. I know that his stuff is very good, and it was just a question that I just had to get him from A to B, do what I know best with the bikes and that, and hopefully if he performed, we went through to the next round, or we had a very good meeting. So we just took it as it came. Just unfortunately, right through the middle of everything, he goes and has a big crash in Poland and breaks the collarbone. But that's one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, that comes with the trait, obviously, as you well know. But but still, seeing Tom managing to get rides in Europe is a big step forward in his own career. I watched, I think it was the European Under-19 final. I think it was the last meeting he done, where he had like 3 lasts and he won his 4th and came 3rd in his last ride. But to see him even mixing it with those guys, it must in yourself feel like, he's achieving something.
It's a very strange feeling where I am, because obviously Tom's always sort of come along with us. He doesn't now live down in Sussex. He lives up near Wolverhampton with his girlfriend and their family. He's made his own sort of directions as it was. As you get older, and that's the way you plan your life out. For me, I totally understand that. But to go and carry on riding Speedway and doing it his way as it was a little bit different. And I've got to say that it took a little while for me to realise actually he is in control of what his future is. I'm just there to assist and help. And yeah, very, very happy to do that. But it was nice to see. I know he could have done better in the under-19 or 21 final, which one it was. I know that he can do better, but unfortunately, we wasn't just us. It was all the people there. It didn't feel like a Speedway meeting. Everybody was, yes, they were segregated in the pits, which was fine. That was the problem. You had a barrier each side of you, and above that barrier there was nothing. So you could lean over and speak to the person next to you. We had a few issues during practice, which eventually got resolved, but it just seemed forever to get there. I think between us, it was near enough 18 or 19-hour drive.
It's a long way, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And when you get older, it's even longer.
Yeah, just sitting in the van, seeing motorway after motorway after motorway, and then maybe a country lane to the track or something like that, and that's
Yeah,
about it.
well, we was all right because we the way we do stuff now is we leave at 2 o'clock in the morning in the UK time, and
Okay.
make sure that we're on a ferry roundabout sort of 2 o'clock or a train as it was. So that's the grave shift
Mm.
hours. So Tom normally, to be fair, he normally does them. He gets us through sort of France, Belgium, and just sort of touching Germany 4 hours. Then the sun comes up.
Mm.
So it's nice. I tend to drive from there right the way through up until sort of 6, 7 o'clock at night. So by then we're nearly almost to where we're meant to be. So we've done that. It seems to be better that way because you're then driving all the time during daylight hours.
Yeah.
So we might be 24 hours early at the place, but it's nice to see that. And the silly thing is, once you go a couple of times abroad and that, you tend to see landmarks, and you come home and you find out what they are. Whether that's because you're getting older, I don't know. But yeah, it is nice to go abroad and spend a little bit more time sort of looking around at stuff. But I guess that's just me getting older.
Yeah, I guess it's just like a point of interest now because you're not riding yourself. You're just focusing on what Tom's doing. Of course, you get chances to think about stuff around you, probably. More than just, like I say, turn up at the meeting, go home. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, like in England, most places look the same. You drive the same sort of places. But if you go to sort of like Poland, Germany, France, you see different things. It's a different way of life.
Yeah, well, we play this little bit of a game on the way out. We put the sat nav on, see which way it says we're meant to go, and then sort of try and avoid going that way.
Okay.
Well, just because we know through our experience when we've gone the way the sat nav says, it's like, oh, it's going to take you 14 hours to get home. But we know if we go the other way, we're going to do it in 13. And for some reason, so especially when you come out of Pardubice or around Prague way, it always tries to take you north of Prague to come home.
Oh, okay.
We always go left and go south. But that's just, you tend to get, all of a sudden you tend to know that when you're out and about. So yeah, we're sort of getting quite good now with the foreign roads as it was.
Well, yeah, like you said, 2020. You knew I've lived and breathed Speedway in Europe, obviously, because obviously no Speedway in the UK, apart from the odd practice that Tom has. I think he said, because Tom was on the show before, and he turned around and said that I think he practiced at Somerset, did the Kings Lynn team practice with Eastbourne, and I think that was about it. Or was there another?
Yeah, I think he did a couple down at Plymouth, but unfortunately they were wet at the time. But yeah, there is nothing in the UK to represent a European track, and I think that's where Tom realised quite quickly that actually if he was going to go and be good abroad, he had to go and ride abroad. And yeah, we just said to me, look, this is what we're planning on doing. No problem. I said, look, we're going to put some money on the Eurotunnel for you, which we did. And he had 10 return tickets or 5 return tickets as it was. And yeah, used them quite happily going backwards and forwards. But yeah, he went to France. I think he did. Well, I was sitting in Pardubice Hotel when the phone call came through to say that he had broke his collarbone.
Okay.
So Sarah and I were both there expecting for him to sort of roll in because he had left a week earlier in my van to go and do some practicing in Poland. No problem. See you later, Tom. Off you go. Next thing I know, he's broke his collarbone. He's laying in hospital in Wrocław. Me and Sarah sitting in Pardubice. We have no vehicle between us, as in me and Sarah. So we did I think it was about a 5-hour taxi ride.
Jeez.
From Czech Republic right the way up through into Poland. And then I was there probably about an hour. Then I left because they had the 4 a.m. curfew.
All right.
For the first or second lockdown, as it was. So I just said to Sarah, look, you'll have to come home by the plane with Tom, and I'll see you when you get home. So then I did from when I jumped in my van. I think I was 13 hours before I got to the tunnel. Jeez. So yeah, but I'd already done 5 hours before taxi.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had a bit of a good time and a bad time while we've been abroad, but it's all experience because I can turn around and say to everybody, yeah, I've come all the way back from Poland on my own.
Yeah, well, there you go. And at least you didn't go there for like a rain off. You know, that's a
Well,
long
that's
way to
it.
go for a rain off.
That's right. But it was worse than that. We never actually got to go and see a meeting.
That is true. That is true.
So yeah, but that is the life of Speedway, unfortunately, and you have good and bad feelings from it. But yeah, I was just pleased to get home. Really.
I bet you went just to put your feet up for 5 minutes, probably.
Yes, that's right. Well, the funny thing was, by the time I got home, I went to bed, woke up. Sarah texted me to say, "Oh, we're jumping on the next flight. We'll be back at I think it was Heathrow.
All right, yeah.
It could have been Heathrow. Yeah, it was Heathrow. We'll be back at Heathrow in at 11 o'clock at night, maybe 12. By the time they come through customs, and by the time we walked in, was 1 o'clock in the morning again. So I was really sort of feeling like death on my feet. But yeah, everybody seemed to be all right, apart from somebody walking around with a sling.
Yeah, and again another broken collarbone. But,
that's right.
But there you go. That's all part of the experience. But that was thanks to, I think he said it was Dan Bewley who helped him out a lot to try and
I got it. Yeah, Dan was fantastic. Really, he put Kristen up for a couple of nights in his apartment that he had there. When Sarah arrived, like the cavalry, they went and stayed in a hotel for a couple of nights, and then they all left to travel home. But I think it was down to Ty Wolfenden as well.
Oh, okay.
He was the one who instigated the operation for Tom. He sort of knocked on a few doors and pointed him in the right direction. And I'm very grateful for Ty for actually helping that way.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Ty's helping out a lot of the young Brits, and obviously when Tom went to Australia as well and things like that, racing with Ty and everyone else, you know, is that sort of experience is what he needs. Because obviously, again, you can give him your side of it, but then obviously Ty, with him currently riding, can help him out in the current situation, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. My side of Speedway has it hasn't changed much, but what we used to do and what used to work for us doesn't necessarily work now. I think Speedway has changed, regardless of what people says. Just the outlook of Speedway, the professionalism of Speedway is a lot more it was in our day. And that's all been brought along from Tony Rickards and Hans Nielsen. It sort of, we followed them because it worked for them. And now you have to be completely organised. You have to have everything. Before it was like, oh yeah, that'd be all right. One more meeting, that'll last. Now it's like, that won't last, throw it away.
Yeah.
Like, wow, okay. But I think that is the problem with Speedway, is that it has quite quickly outgrown itself for actually what it is. And it's a horrible thing to say, but look, when I sit down and look on YouTube and go backwards and look at all the people that used to be sort of, they had finished their career when I started, but you had Terry Betts, Dave Jessup, Malcolm Simmons, Gordon. You had all people like that, and you look back and think, look how many people are at that stadium. It was absolutely rammed. And you don't get that now. And well, if you do, it's at the real big meetings. But when we was in Gdansk for the final, I think there was about 10 people in the stadium, and they were all they were just purely people that had to be there to make sure others weren't getting in. And you wouldn't even know the meeting had been on. There was no advertising, nothing around the place. So it was a real sort of strange place to be. But the poor kiddie that won it, probably the best thing in his career. I think he was quite young, wasn't he? I can't remember.
Was it a German kiddie who won it?
Danish
kiddie. It was a Danish kiddie. Yeah.
So and he won it. Just got the bumps from his pit crew. No one else allowed to touch him.
I mean, you can probably stand from the pits and just clap him. That's about as far as you could get to him.
That's it. Which was horrible for him, but unfortunately, But that is, will Speedway ever come back to as other people know it? I don't know.
Again, that's another big question. A lot of it is so ifs, ands, and buts at the moment. You know, obviously with the whole thing with Swindon, you know, now saying that they're not going to run, whether that's their choice not to run or it's to do with the stadium or whatever. No, unless someone else knows something better than what I do.
I was made aware of it that day, and I was told that that's what the promoters have chosen, and it's just been spruced up just to sort of cover themselves, because they don't want to sit and say, yes, we're going to run. No, we're not. Yes, we are. It's not fair on the people in their area. And then the Stadia UK, they want their X amount of money because they were promised 20 meetings. It is a financial suicide bomb for anybody who is in the entertainment business at the moment.
Yeah, not just Speedway, but I'm sure there's other sports, which are going to struggle. And the only one that doesn't struggle really is football, but then that's just football. But
that's all down to how much they're getting paid by the television company, isn't it?
Yeah, that is true, and obviously with this all new online stuff that football do as well, that's all the money coming in there. Maybe that could be the way for Speedway if they want to run anything, but because obviously, like you say, the Gdansk meeting that was on TV. Okay, I think it was live streamed, but maybe that could be a way forward to run anything. But then again, like you say, it's a financial suicide because turnstiles aren't turning for people to come in. No. Of course.
I know that we paid for the meeting, the Berwick meeting, the under-19 up at Berwick with Tom at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And then it was a big toss-up. He asked me if I could go, and I was like, no way. I don't mind doing like 19 hours to Poland. I said, I'm not doing like 8 hours from my house to Berwick, not knowing whether it would be on, not be on, because the forecast for that week was terrible.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, hands up to the people that run that meeting, and the way it was run was very good, but it didn't really deserve a live stream at that time, or if it did, they should have used the people that run and did the one at Bellevue, because we watched that one, and I've got to say that was very good. The problem being is I've become, like most people, quite a nice armchair critic. I can get up, I can walk off. I notice stuff that some people don't notice. And I can say, oh, that's never going to happen. And it never happens. They're like, yeah, but he was so close. He wasn't. You can see that they weren't close. And I can go disappear in the workshop for 20 minutes, come back, and I can sort of sit down and watch what's going on. But that's just me. I suppose I've done my bit. I can see what's happening. Why worry about it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as an ex-rider watching myself, I watch sort of anything, any sort of race, and you can see the moves where they're going to pull it off. Or like, it's when you get Tatum and Pearson getting excited about a move, and you think you're never going to make it. He's not going to do it. He's changed his mind now, and it's just like, yeah, okay, it's cool. It is a bit disheartening for Speedway, but it is a bit predictable nowadays.
Yeah, it has. But I've got to say, some of the races in the Grand Prix have been very good this year. Some of them you think they are right on the limit.
Yeah, very much.
And you think, well, okay, they deserve that. Oh, here comes the number one. Oh no, sorry, I thought someone was coming in.
But no, things like you see, like Bartek. Some of the moves that he does. He can't get away with around on sort of like any English track. He wouldn't be able to get away with it. But in Poland, he gets away with it because it's big and fast. So
But I think his mentality is that he wants it still more than anybody else.
Yeah, very much so.
And I think he is just out and out champion. And I love him. I love the way he is, the way he rides, the excitement within him. You can see that just purely by what he does.
Yeah.
And I have to take my hat off to him. He's a bloody good rider.
Yeah, he can do it. Yeah.
But he's always wanted to do it, and that's what's made him so good. And fair play to him. Him, Golub. Unfortunately for Thomas, with his accident, you don't hear much about him, and everything you hear about him isn't particularly good news. But that's just purely unfortunate.
No. But do you think that Bartek and Thomas are quite similar? Sort of like in a way at that sort of age, like, because obviously Thomas was quite erratic when he was younger and things like that. But look at Bartek. Do you reckon that they're slightly similar in a way?
No, Bartos he's probably about 5'4", and Thomas is about 6 foot.
Well, I didn't mean the height.
I think the way they are is they both want to win. I think that's about the only thing they have in common. Yeah. Bartos is pure skill. Thomas was just pure determination, a bit like Nicky, really. Yeah. Pure determination, had to be hard all the time to be where they wanted to be. Some of the racing I've seen from Rosloff as well with Thomas, it's been really good. It's right. Just got people coming in. I'll come back and pick that up in a minute. It's right. Sarah's just coming. So yeah, it's. I think the difference with Thomas is he's had to race people when everybody's changed from uprights to lay downs.
Yeah.
When Bartos has come along and everything's just been a lay down, but that's all he knows, and fair play to him.
Yeah, I mean that's the major switch. Obviously, again, it's in during your career during the 90s and things like that. But we'll come on to that a bit later on because I'm interested to hear your opinion on that. But going back to your career, as that's why we're here, really, not to talk about Tom, as Tom is a superstar. But with your own career, obviously, I sort of know how it started with obviously your family heavily involved in Speedway, your dad promoting down at Eastbourne and stuff like that. What's your sort of like early memory of like the junior track days? What's your sort of recollection of that?
It's quite hard, really, because me and Paul used to spend most of our weekends at the stadium anyway. When my dad was regardless of whether he was running the Speedway or whether it was in the winter, we always ended up at the track. Sunday morning, it was we'd be ready, otherwise we start home. And we was always ready, and off we went. We used to have a little bike track for our push bikes in the woods. Me and Paul used to ride around that, pretending to be Speedway riders. That moved on. Alan Johns had sort of made us a couple of bikes, and then it moved to a small junior track. Then the junior track then was made bigger, and then it was made bigger again. So it's sort of just made 3 times. It's made it to where it was and where it sat for a long time. So, and I remember like yourself have been around there. You got Scott Swain around there, Gary Tagg, Kevin Pitts. You had all the sort of and the Standing Boys. They all come up from it. Dave Norris, but they was as I was coming off the junior track, they were just sort of coming onto the track, and they were the sort of people that they wanted it and wanted Speedway. They put the time in and the effort to make the stadium, that particular part of the stadium, what they wanted and what they used it for. And with the help of Alan Johns, that's why it sort of progressed to where it did. So yeah, I think it's great for the youngsters to have something that they could go and use.
Yeah, it's the very early days of these sort of like academies that there are now and things like that. It was the famed Arlington Academy, for so many years and things like that. But so with Alan John's involvement, did he sort of like then build your bikes from scratch, or is it just something that he made?
He built me a small bike when I was 4 years old, which we still got, not at my house, but at my mum's. That was just a rev up and go bike, no problem at all. It had a clutch on it, never used to use it because I didn't know what it was. So that's where that started from. And then as you get bigger, he produced like the C70 engine, because there was a lot of them around at the time. The C90s was another one that he used, and then we went for the Honda 125 uprights. So it was a progression. The bigger we got, the older we got, the bigger the engine. And then we went from there to a 350 Westlake, because there was no 250s at that time. And then from there to a 500. So by the time you sort of bounce through all the bikes, you was 15, 16 years old, ready to go and ride.
Yeah, and I mean that's the best way to learn, is to go through the engine sizes, and things like that. I know myself, I went from a 200, my little green machine I used to have. I went from that straight up to the 500, and I was unfortunately the sort of like the slight generation who missed the 250 and things like that, which I think my own self could have benefited myself more than anything. So how old were you then when you sort of like jumped on the 500 then? Were you like 15 or 16 roughly then about then?
Oh, I would say, maybe 13, 14. But everybody thinks, he used to ride all the time at the stadium, and it was, they own the stadium, they can go and ride what they want. It sort of never worked like that. I rode when we was there, which was most weekends, along with all the other kids from the junior track. The second half, they had the second half, and then we had about an hour's practice after meeting. And that was it. It was home time, and everybody went home, and before you know it, you're back again. Yeah. But I rode as much as anybody else. I had no special treatment to be allowed to ride like that. And what people don't realise as well is that the stadium was used on a Saturday or Sunday for Speedway, and then Wednesdays it was converted to a stock car stadium. So there was no time for people to go and use the stadium as they believe we could have used it.
Yeah, because obviously I've heard things saying, oh yeah, well Martin and Paul and everyone else, all the Dugards could practice there whenever they wanted. Even I knew that for a fact that you couldn't do that. No. But it's interesting to know that sort of thing. But did you manage to go to sort of like any other tracks? Because obviously your dad was involved with some other tracks and things like that.
No, okay. Never. I obviously I was growing up on the junior track at the same time Gary Tagg was sort of coming through as well. So next thing I know is Gary's off to Reading, he's off to Hackney, and you're thinking, okay, I never ever went to any of them. Never sort of ventured outside the fence at Eastbourne for the fact that my dad didn't have time to take me.
Yeah,
and that was the way it was, and we just accepted that. And Dean Barker, Dean Barker went to Dean Barker and John Cook both went to Hackney once, and I went along with John and Dean, and unfortunately John knocked himself out. I was just old enough to drive at that time, so I was lucky enough to drive John all the way home via all the back roads as it was, just purely because he was in no state to drive.
You've seen double.
I had never been out of the county as it was.
No, it's just interesting to know, because obviously it's interesting to know if you actually had managed to get any more sort of different track experience or even just Speedway experience, just going to another track and watching and things like that.
We used to obviously go and watch, because obviously where Eastbourne was where Dad was, and if it was local, he used to take us.
Yeah.
Wimbledon being the ideal one, because it was only an hour and a bit away from where we live. Sometimes we went to Hackney, wasn't that often, but we did go. But looking at them now, that they're both very similar sort of tracks to each other, very similar in size. And but at that age, you're not really that interested in what's going on. I wasn't, and whether Eastbourne won or lost at the particular time, it was like, oh right, okay, oh that's unlucky.
But,
yeah, maybe that's where I should have sort of looked at it and thought, well, maybe this isn't too bad for a job. Maybe you should put a little bit more effort in.
Yeah, but then again, you're at that sort of age, you're a kid. You know, you're doing things like a kid and enjoying yourself and whatnot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we had none of that either.
Oh, fair enough. But also, just before we move on from the junior track, is that you managed to get some of the British League boys, as it was at the time, to come on race you guys. So people like Sagalos, Gunderson, Kelly Moran, I think helps you out a lot with, I think it was a race suit as well he gave you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had one of Kelly's suits. I think Kelly just sort of gave it to us because he could see that it was in his interest for us to have a suit. But he was, whenever Cradley were down, it was obviously Gunderson coming and raced us, and a couple of the Cradley boys, and Dennis Sagalas come and had a go. But you got to say, those guys, they had it in Denmark. When they were kids, they had all this. We never had that here, and still didn't at that particular time. I think the only other training track was up at Sheffield, and you're talking way back, like in the early '80s. So it was nice of them to do it. And looking back now, I think that's what the kids need. They need somebody to look up to do that. Yeah,
they need someone who will just do it for a laugh, a joke, you know, and just ride around with them, because the kid can then turn around and say, well, I rode with so-and-so, you know, and things like that, you know. And it's a big thing for a 9-10-year-old to say that sort of thing.
That's right, absolutely. And you've got to sort of put yourself in the situation is where you look up to people, and then hopefully one day you can sort of be on that par with them. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. But then you moved on to obviously the senior track, and you said you rode the 350 and then obviously onto the 500. Was there much difference then between the 350 and the 500, or none whatsoever?
Well, not that I really noticed. I know that when I was on my 350, I was never flat out. Then when I went on to my 500, I still wasn't flat out. So to me, there wasn't that much difference at that particular time. The only time you really notice it is when you put in a race and you think you're going really fast, but the other three people in front of you are going even quicker.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, and you think, well, now that's a bit of an eye opener. But I got to say, I had my first meeting. I think I scored sort of 9 points at home at reserve, which I was very happy with. Next day went to Exeter. I think I scored one lucky point. Just couldn't believe how big the track was. Obviously, you could put Eastbourne in there a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is a bit of a shock. But it's one of those tracks that you either loved it or hated it. I hated it for a few years, and then I got to love it once I got where I was comfortable racing at my level. I was able to go and enjoy it and make it hard work for others who weren't enjoying it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got to say that was I broke the track record down there as well. So yeah, I had a good time around there. But second track, sort of away from home, you think, wow, second meeting, that this is a big old place, and it's when all the other riders go, no, you put the spring under the slide, so it's always flat out. I'm like, right, okay.
Yeah. I can imagine you were there sort of like mechanicking for yourself as well, and things like that.
Well, actually, when I first started, Dino sort of helped me.
Yeah.
So we had between us didn't have a clue. So we just sort of winged the first sort of 3 years of my career just by not listening or listening to the right people, and there's so much rubbish that's thrown at you. So, but it is a learning curve. You soon learn to listen to the right people.
Yeah, I mean, well, your first 3 years were pretty good, National League level, and things like that before we went to British League and things like that. So you can't be too bad at winging it.
No, I think the first 3 years were okay. Moved up, and obviously went to Oxford. There was the main Dane, Hans. Didn't have a clue who Hans was at the time. The fact that he was a multi-world champion. But I think that's the difference, is he really wanted it more than I just sort of played at it. And I have to say, he did well to put up with me, really.
Well, okay, fair enough. I'm sure he could tolerate everyone in the team, really.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, you had to.
Yeah, exactly. But just before you go to talk about the British League and the Oxford and everything, those first few years at Eastbourne, because I've got programs from those decades in my own collection and stuff like that. Your first sort of meeting, I think, was the Championship of Sussex. You were as reserve, remember rightly. And then you went into the team after that against Exeter. It was the reschedule of the Championship of Sussex in '85. You were reserve. Someone crashed out and was out of the meeting, and it was into like your last ride where you actually won a race. I think you fell and then won. I think that was what it was. But yeah, that's the sort
I can't even remember it.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But
to be honest, when people say, "Oh, you remember this, you remember that," and I remember this, I'm like, no.
No, that's fair. No, that's fair enough. It's just like, because I remember that. I remember seeing it when I clicked the programs. I saw your name in it. I thought, oh, this must be his first meeting, then really. And then obviously, then it's Exeter in the league, and then that's when you're in the team from then on. But yeah, it must have been a huge item though, that sort of '85 season. I mean, managed to win the Knockout Cup. That was obviously some good success, and things like that.
I think the problem being was I came in halfway through the year when everybody else had most of the seasons to get going.
Yeah.
I'd done thousands of laps around Eastbourne by then. I was okay at home, but it was what suited me. I was a terrible starter when I first learned to ride Speedway, especially when you was in racing. That I was probably one of the worst person in the world to start. But that got better, and as I got better because of my starting. And now when you turn around and you look at it with Tom or you look at it with somebody else, all you got to do is you just got to get out and start. And Todd Wiltshire proved that he was not the fastest person around. Todd wasn't, but my God, he could start.
Yeah.
Very, very jealous of him.
But with Todd, he did it consistently as well. It wasn't like it was like one race and he missed one and then one race and he missed one. It was 5 rides. He was bang every time.
Yeah. And if he wasn't fast enough, he would sit just at the right place and he would sort of glide in your way. Would never make it look as if he had stopped you.
Yeah.
But he would glide nicely across the front of you, or he'd just slow up enough. It's a bit similar to Dan Bewley, really.
Yeah.
I was in Denmark watching him this year, or last year, should I say. And I've never seen anybody go to the end of the straight, shut off, and then just put the motor back on. Didn't even skid going in. just railroad it all the way around. I was like, well, that's different.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem being is that he was able to do that when all the others wasn't. And I think that's when you realise actually he is a true motorcyclist from other sports that he had brought into Speedway.
Yeah, because he's obviously ex-motocrosser and things like that. So obviously he can ride and turn a bike like that. I think no matter what Dan would ride, he'll be able to ride like a Speedway bike almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but no, it's good to hear about Todd. You know, so about that sort of thing. But moving on in your career, obviously Eastbourne successful in the 80s. Everybody knows that League and Cup double twice. You know, and things like that. That must have been good for your own sort of stuff in those first few years.
Yeah, it was unusual because obviously for me, we'd won the Knockout Cup in '85. We'd then won it again in '86 and '87.
Yeah.
And I think 86, 87, we won the league back to front as well.
Yeah.
So it wasn't unusual for me to be in a place where, we finished top of the league, or we've won this, we won that. It just happened.
Yeah.
And then obviously went up to Oxford from Eastbourne. And then I think we won the Knockout Cup the first year, and then we won the league double 2 years after. Yeah. So winning stuff wasn't unusual for me. And some people, like I tried to explain to the kids and that, some people do their whole career and they never win anything.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just me.
But no, that's right time.
That's right. But I think that's the problem is I've been very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time with the right people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at the guys you rode with in the British League, you had Hans, Simon, Marvin Cox, you know, people like that, you know, they're all good all-round riders, you know, and things like that. So the company you're in, I mean, it wasn't just necessarily the Martin Dugard and Hans Nilsson show, it was everyone else in the team as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And then, but when you rode against other people, I like Sam Ermolenko, Peter Carlson, Michael Carlson, and then you go Tommy Knudsen, and you think all these people now, it's hard to explain. Like I like to say to kids, it's much harder in my day. But it appeared to be harder in my day because the people you come against were very hard people. They would run across the front of you. They would stop you. But now it's if they get close to you, that's Speedway. Some people just can't get close to you, or they just disappear off into the daylight and you can't get close enough to them.
Yeah,
and I think that is a big issue. I love the way they used to move at the starting line.
What, like the nudging of the tapes and things like that?
Yeah. I think that brought the anticipation to it. I would have been absolutely useless at it, but I think Speedway needs to go backwards again to go forward. But that's only my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I've got hours of footage of Eastbourne through the years, especially when you were there and things like that in the 90s and stuff like that. And you see the racing, you know, how much closer it was. I mean, the classic ones against Wolverhampton, you know, things like that, you know. I mean, when you had a good punch up, you know, I remember one particular meeting, I think it was the KO Cup, one of the KO Cup rounds in '94. Tony Aitken did the professional foul, shall we say, and I think it was a couple of races later. I think you need a 3 or something like that to go through, and it was you, Dino, Peter Carlson, Sam Ermolenko, and you did the professional foul and did a little song and dance, things like that, and then there was a little punch up after that. So, you know, there's things like that you need back in the sport.
I think Speedway has tried to be too clean.
Yeah, it has, very much.
And so. I think that is all the characters that were in it, myself, like Nicky, people like that are sort of they've been nailed down now to be good.
Yes.
So that is an issue. I think the sport needs to sort of put people like that out there for people to hate them. Like Craig Cook, he needs to, when he comes back to Eastbourne, I think people will remember him.
Oh, of course they will, yeah.
But that's what people need. They need something that I'm going tonight. Craig Cook's there.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's whatever reason people need to go. Nicky Pedersen's in town. We go and watch him. David Norris is there. Dean Barker's coming down.
Yeah.
I think it needs that back into Speedway for people to be interested in it.
So that's sort of like that rivalry really is what you need back into it, where
Yeah.
the fans get involved and things like that.
Yeah.
That's what it needs. I mean, again, you touch on the Glasgow meeting from 2 years ago now, 2019,
Yeah.
and things like that. I mean, for all the wrong that it was, what happened, you know, the crowd was hyped up, the meeting was hyped up, you know, it went up another level, which is great for Speedway. You know,
Yeah.
and we, like you say, desperately need that sort of thing back into the sport. We need more crowd participation and things like that to make the atmosphere again.
Yeah, and obviously when you speak to people who are the generation before me, like your Neil Middleditches and that, and he's like, this is what it needs. It needs this. We miss all this. And people go, no, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, life's slightly different to what we look at it at. And some of it is all pantomime stuff as well.
Oh yeah, it's pure theatre, that people would say, sort of thing. But yeah, and I mean, looking back at, say, your time at Oxford, you know, again, another successful stuff. That time you had your first world final at Bradford,
yeah,
you know, and things like that. So
very disappointed with that, because I was hoping that if I was going to make it to a world final, it would be abroad somewhere.
Would you prefer that then?
I think so. I think it would have been nice to sort of to get to the world final. I'd been in Denmark to qualify. I think I did all the rounds in England. I did from the British final, then I went to the Commonwealth final, the overseas final. So I went to Kings Lynn, then I went to Coventry.
Yeah.
Then I went to the intercontinental final in Denmark.
Yeah.
And then back to the UK again. Absolutely gutted.
Yeah, you want to go abroad for one international meeting. Really.
That's right.
It is,
That's right.
But because I had Jeremy Doncaster on the show before, and he was talking about that road to the world final, because obviously he missed out. I think he won the overseas final, and then got to the intercontinental final and bombed out. You know, it proves that even back then how cutthroat the world final was. The road to the world final, should I say, was back then. So I mean, to even make the final, okay, yeah, it was Bradford, but you know, you must have been proud of yourself to just make it.
Yeah, I look back now and just say to the kids, well, you know, it's like having been in a Grand Prix, but winning that one Grand Prix. And that's what the world final was. So really, I could have been world champion when I won the Grand Prix at Coventry. And we have a laugh about it then. But looking back at it, because when it was Hans won the world final, and then they had the world final revenge a week later in Denmark.
Yes.
Sorry, when Per won it at Bradford.
Oh, yeah.
A week later, we went back to Denmark, which Hans won it. And I think I come second or third in it.
Okay.
Soaking wet meeting, typical Denmark. But I come third, and I just said to Hans, it's a shame, Hans, this is just a week late, isn't it, for me? And he's like, we obviously laughed at it then. And, it's amazing. The same people went from Bradford as they did to Voynes. But they were the top riders in the world at that time. And it's quite interesting and quite nice to know that the other meetings that we've been to, we've always done reasonably well in them. So, Speedway isn't all bad, but it is much harder work than people make it out to be.
Oh, yeah, God, yeah. I mean, especially that sort of time, because I think you were riding near enough in 3 leagues for a few years in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And doing that sort of thing. So you were living the professional life as it is today. So it's no surprise, you know, and I imagine it was quite tiring back then, because obviously half the stuff we have now, we didn't have back then.
Well, that's right. I used to do all my own equipment. People always believe, he's got stacks of money, blah, blah, blah. Personally, I don't have stacks of money. my parents have stacks of money, but they always help me. But I did the best I could with what I had at the time. And when we was in Sweden, we had 2 bikes in Sweden. We had 2 bikes in Poland. Open Speedway star up one day to find that actually both my bikes were being used in one race by the club, which was like, wow, okay. But that's neither here or there. And obviously I just took everybody on face value as it was, and my stuff was there, and they just come along and used it.
as long as they cleaned it afterwards, that's what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, but did you enjoy your time abroad then, riding the Polish and the Swedish leagues? I know you rode for Dakar in Sweden for a few years and things like that.
Yeah, I did. I did Vetlander with John Davis. I did. Me and Dean, we signed for Rybnik in Poland. Then I went and rode for Grosjean. I was the second or third rider for Lublin when Hans and Lee Adams was in the side.
Okay.
The chance of either one of them being hurt or ill at the same time was pretty silly, because I didn't know any difference. It was something that Hans has sorted out for me. But I've got to say, yes, I enjoyed it. At that particular time, it wasn't the most interesting thing in my life I've got to go and sit on the plane for 3 hours and then in a car for 4 and then ride and then straight back to be back in the UK or whatever it was. But looking back now, I was a complete idiot, really. I should have took it with both hands and gone, actually, you need to sit down and take a sort of grip of your life and have a look at what's going on around you, because you don't realise how lucky you are.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, looking back at the books, the history books, things like that, 92 for yourself was a good year, for example. You managed to make the World Pairs final. Okay, you were reserved that meeting, but you did also with the World Team Cup, which you done, I think, in 91 as well in Voyens, I think it was, something like that. And obviously this one was in Kumla, and things like that. And that's when you I think unbeaten your first 4 rides.
Then a complete last.
Yeah, I think
please don't talk to me.
No, I've got the DVD of that meeting, and you think, what happened in that last ride? You think, hang on, he's gone nearly through the car, and all of a sudden it went pear-shaped.
Well, everybody got good, didn't they?
Yeah, okay, maybe.
No, I think the issue was obviously the track. Seriously, made me cough.
No, sorry.
Even the track was very grippy right from the off. It wasn't like that in practice.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we practiced because the track was so wet.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember now.
Yeah.
And it took right the way up till sort of heat 12, 13 before the track started to dry out. And then all of a sudden it becomes so slick. When I missed the start, that was it. Couldn't do anything. And that was, like I said to you, that Speedway from the start. And all the people that have been there was like Hans, Jimmy Nielsen, Per. They knew exactly what the track was going to be, and silly nuts in myself just didn't even think or watch what was going on. I was so pleased with scoring 12 points out my first 4 rides. Yeah, I sort of switched off.
Yeah, it's easily done, very easily done. But I guess from that you took a learning curve, saying you should keep an eye on the track conditions and just things like that.
I think the problem being was I was learning all the time, and I was getting to the stage where I was thinking about the bike. I was thinking about how we get home and all stuff like that, rather than just concentrating on one meeting. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's all over, and it's like, oh, what happened in your last ride? And you think, well, don't worry about the other 4 that I've won before that. It was just one ride I had a bad one at, but it was one of those things. It was one bad ride, and that's what people tend to remember.
It's the same as saying you're only as good as your last ride.
That's right.
Like that, absolutely. It's unfortunate. But I think England came third in that after a runoff. I think it was Sweden or something like that. I think it was that meeting. Because I know USA won the meeting. Right. I know that was the meeting that Sam had his huge crash down the straight with Gert Hammer. I think it was.
That's where I was involved in that when I was in front of him.
Oh, was he? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah. Way in front. No,
I got clipped by, I think it was Sam's bike when he picked up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, but unfortunately, another meter either way would have been either would have been nice and clear or a complete mess for me. But that never happened.
Thank God, But also in '92, you came second in the British final. After a run off with Javi, and then you decided to go to the Commonwealth at Kings Lynn.
Was that when I broke my collarbone?
Yeah, and you decided to take. I think it was Andy Smith decided to come back down from the outside to the inside, and you were there.
Yeah, I think Andy knew exactly where I was.
Yeah.
I think he just thought, we'll just cut him up a little bit, but obviously didn't realise I was a little bit closer. But he had already changed direction. Yeah. And the rest is history, isn't it? A broken collarbone, won my next ride. I think won my ride after that, and then a second, and then obviously where I'd been knocked out. In those days, it wasn't a big thing. If you could remember your name and what day it was, you were all right. You're good enough to ride. but the rules and regulations have tightened up now, and you would never get away with it now.
No.
And I can't remember anything of the day. Can't remember coming home. Don't remember anything for a couple of days.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, it was a fair old hit you took against the fence, and of course Kings Lynn fence didn't give.
No,
no. But no, if you ever want to watch the meet, I've got it on DVD.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. Right.
Yeah, but because obviously again that was a big thing, and then obviously I think it was the overseas final. And after that, at Coventry, again, I think then you got involved with a crash again in your first ride or something like
that. I think Billy Hamill crashed in front of me and I laid the bike down.
Yeah, that's it,
Again, jarred the collarbone, but lucky to qualify through that one.
Well, was your collarbone then pinned and plated then, or was it just...
No, just it was 10 days after I broke it. So it was starting to go a bit gooey, but it hadn't sort of quite... It wasn't quite right, but there's nothing I could do about it, because if I'd had it plated, and that they were saying at that time you're going to be another 10 days anyway.
Okay.
So I couldn't. It was best just to take it as it was.
It's kind of like just rest it then, and just sort of then go to the next one.
Yeah. I think I rested it because I went and played golf the next, because it was so far separated. I went and played golf with Stefan Dano and Stefan Anderson.
Oh, right, okay.
But that didn't hurt.
No. Well, you're only swinging, aren't you? You're not turning.
Yeah.
So that's different.
That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, and obviously after that, then I think it was the world semi-final or something like that was next. I can't remember where you were for that. I think it might have been Lanigo or something like that, maybe. I can't remember that one. But that
was in Vienna Neustadt.
Oh, Vienna Neustadt. Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Because the one thing I've always wanted to know, because obviously you had the runoff for the last qualifying spot.
No, I didn't.
Didn't you? Well, no. No, you didn't. Okay, then maybe not then.
But no, what I did was I qualified for the world final in 92.
Yeah.
It's because Poland were the host nation. They had to put their highest score in from either the Bradford round or the round from Vienna Neustadt. Unfortunately for me, Slavomir Drabic scored 3 points.
Yeah.
Which was one more point than the Pole scored at Bradford. So he went into the world final. So our round, instead of saying, I think it was 7 went through, only 6 went through.
Okay.
So that's how I become first reserve at that world final. But also what really grinds me was that I think I was second or third in my first ride, and Einar Kinistad hit the fence. How he hit the fence, God knows. And then my bike packed up in the rerun.
Oh, okay.
So I would have qualified anyway, but obviously I didn't. So
I've always wanted to know what your sort of opinions on that sort of thing more than anything.
Yeah, well, I watched the world final in Rostov. Red hot day. I saw Slavomir Drabic's mechanic putting a sleeping bag over the top of the glass pits, because that was like a magnifying glass.
Jeez.
Disappeared, went straight through the roof in the pits. So he cut himself to pieces. It was an unusual sort of day, and then obviously someone hit the tapes right in their last ride, and they was all like, "You're going out, you're going out." I'm like, "I'm not going out."
No.
So I just got excluded for that.
Yeah, because it's a bit pointless going out for just one ride.
Oh,
especially right at the end.
I'd already changed. I was ready to go home.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah, I'm in the van. I'm going home.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, but no, it was that's how that one came about.
Did it sort of then dishearten you then to get to qualify for the world final after that then, or did you still have like a bit of an ambition to get to another world final?
I didn't realise until later on in my Speedway career how hard it was to get to a world final, because 2 years in a row I'd qualified. In my mind, I'd already qualified. So, I didn't realise how hard it was. And then when I just thought, well, maybe have another go, it was like, knocked out. It's like, right, well, we're not going to play anymore.
Yeah, so you sort of like lose interest then, basically.
Completely. Yeah, it's like, well, okay. So that's I left it.
Yeah, because obviously after Oxford closing, but then reopening in the next league down, the second division in '93, you came back to Eastbourne. Everyone asked the question: did you have offers from anywhere else or anywhere like that, or should you have gone somewhere else? I know the answer to that one. You probably yes.
Yeah. Financially, it would have been better for me to go elsewhere and ride, because of all the silly deals that were being given to the riders at that particular time, because Speedway wasn't dying as it was now. But for me to be safe as it was. It's 20 minutes down the road, half an hour to the stadium from my house.
Yeah.
I could go and score between 10 and 15 points a meeting and be quite happy with the money and come home. It was no effort.
Yeah.
I'm really thinking about it now. What I should have done was should have gone 4 hours up to Bellevue, signed for them, and put a bit of meat into it and been a man. But I didn't.
No, but then again, at Eastbourne, you were guaranteed a ride. Whereas probably anywhere else you weren't really, because maybe, I don't know what your average was at the time in 92, maybe it was like an 9 point average. It was still a high average, to sort of like slot you in as like a second heat leader or even the heat leader, and things like that. But did you
would have expected me to go there and be number one?
Exactly. Yeah. But did anyone like Coventry, because I know obviously Coventry then signed Hands Right just before the season started. Did anyone like that come forward to you then and say, well, would you be interested?
No one.
Okay. No, fair enough.
But yeah, not. I think the problem was because I was always linked to Eastbourne.
Okay.
It wouldn't have been in anybody's interest to have come along, because by the time they spoke to my dad, he would have said, no, leave him. He's mine. He's not going nowhere. Possibly people did come forward.
Yeah.
I will never know, because obviously with my dad being dead, he's not going to tell me, and obviously you wouldn't know anyway. So I don't know.
No, that's fair enough, because it's always interesting to know that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But did your brother Paul have any issues then with going to other clubs and because of your dad, or was he all right to go to other places?
I think the difference between Paul and myself was that he wasn't quite good enough to be a threat to a team. He would always slot in the bottom end with his averages.
Okay, yeah.
So, yes, he had a good few meetings for Oxford. They weren't fantastic. And then when he went to Swindon, he had a few good meetings for Swindon. But they were always the middle order, where you would get 6 points when they was only expecting you to get 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been enough to make or break them, because there's plenty of those riders around.
Okay.
With me, it was like, well, there isn't that many 8-9 point riders around, but we could build a mediocre team and we could have a couple of them.
No, it's just interesting to hear the obviously comparing and contrast really more than anything, between South and Paul. Obviously, you and Paul rode for Eastbourne in 93 and 94. Obviously, I think Paul joined towards the end of the year or middle of the season. After a ban, I think it was, he had in 92, and things like that. But how did you find things like the 18 heat format and 8 team members and things like that at that sort of time?
It didn't really affect me.
No, okay.
It wasn't one of those things that they changed it to make it interesting for people, but actually it just cost them money, because then they had to pay for extra rides.
That is true, because obviously that time I think was the pay rates, the stupid pay rates they had at the time, and
but nobody adhered to them anyway.
Oh, didn't they? Oh, okay. No. Fair enough. I was only 3 years old at the time. I had no idea what was going on. So you see, that's how young I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no, it's interesting to read and hear that from that sort of time and stuff like that, because obviously again, Speedway was going through sort of like a rough patch.
Never ever read and believe that's the truth.
I don't.
You got the Speedway Star, haven't you?
I've got plenty of them.
but that's the thing, is it very creative journalism.
Yeah.
Is good, but unfortunately, it's only telling people what they want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but there you go. But also, 93 was a good year for yourself on the individual front with the overseas final win.
Yep.
And things like that. I mean, that must have been a big confidence boost for yourself more than anything, just to go to a big meeting and win it.
It's like everything. Every meeting I went to, I went and tried my best.
Yeah.
Whether I had a good meeting or a bad meeting, it's always been like that. And whatever turned out. Whether I won it or come last, it's the same sort of effort that went in.
Yeah.
And I think that is the problem, is I never stepped up for a big meeting because I'd always tried my best anyway. So there was nothing left in the tank because I'd already used it all.
Yeah, you've worked hard leading up to the meeting, and then obviously get to the meeting again. It's the occasion. It's Coventry, 6,000 people there, for example. It can hinder you a little bit.
Yeah, I to be honest, people say, "Oh, you were so unapproachable," and that. I'm like, really? But maybe that's because I had to be that focused because I was doing it all on my own.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's a lot of people around who has the completely wrong idea of me. I'm quite a nice person, really.
Yeah, you are.
It's just people don't come and talk to me, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah, you see, myself, I'll come and talk to you. That's all right. No worries. I'll be your friend.
Football friends.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, again, 93, a good year for yourself. Unfortunately, you missed out getting to Pocking for the final. But it's still a good year for Eastbourne. Third in the league, the highest they finished in the British League at that time. With a reasonably young team as well, with Peter Narling, Stefan Dano. Who else was in the team? Andrew Silver. People like
Dino.
Yeah. Oh, Dave as well, Dave Norris.
Yeah.
So quite a young team really that then Silver put together. So it must have been good fun to be in.
Yeah, I think the problem being is it's like every team, isn't it? There's always that little bit. Someone wants to be better than someone else, and you try that little bit harder, and before you know it, everybody's having a good meeting, and you're winning.
Yeah. Yeah, so you obviously got on the roll with a few minutes. I think one of the best ones from that year was winning away at Coventry.
Winning away would have been nice. They can't do that now, can they?
No, that is true. That is true. They can't win away. Well, I didn't in 2019, but yeah, hey ho. First year in the next league up. And I mean, the only other thing about the 93 season I want to touch on is obviously that World Team Cup from that year when England came stone last at Coventry.
Was I there?
Yes, you were there.
Yes.
Because that was also when you're being filmed for the Champions documentary, the Channel 4 thing as well. So, I mean, that must have been a bit of an eye-opener to be included in that.
I think the issue with that was that we had sort of beaten ourselves up before that we were going to be really good.
Yeah.
And when we turned up, we was absolute rubbish. And there was no rhyme, no reason for it. I think that's when everybody had trouble getting all their bikes through for the noise.
I see, yeah.
So we have wire brushes wedged up the exhaust pipe.
Yeah.
Some people, I don't know how some people got their bikes through, but all the Danes, I think the Danes were there, weren't they?
Yeah, the Danes were there. It was England, Denmark, Sweden, USA were there that day.
Right. Well, the Danes, all their bikes went through without a question of a doubt. All their bikes, they had the same silencers on as us, but they all went through.
Yeah.
We struggled to get our bikes through, and that was like the build up to it all, and it was just one of those days that anything that went wrong could have gone wrong.
Yeah, it did go wrong basically.
And I think did we all have team suits as well?
No, that was 2000. You had the team.
Oh, was it?
93 was when you had like an England bit on the front. It was plain white, and it was you, Javi, Kelvin Tatum, Chris Louis, and Joe Screen was in the team.
See, that's where it went wrong when they picked me.
Well, no, but they probably picked you because you won at Coventry the overseas final, and you were probably in good form at the time. So
I don't know then. No, I think it was just one of those days. If I can recall, it was quite a hot day, and we just had miles too much horsepower for the track that we thought was going to be the same as it normally is for a spare meeting. But because we had that practice, it wasn't. It was rock hard like a motorway.
Yeah.
And we were terrible.
Yeah, because I remember recalling. Because I've had Javi on the show as well, and he was recalling it as well. And it was things like the track was rock hard and it was slick. I think the practice it was a bit stodgy because I think you had rain in the morning or something like that there. Yeah. And I think one of the quotes from Kelvin Tatum was to have if you had a bit more, couple more inches of dirt on it, it would be fine. It would suit England down to the ground, but it never happened.
No.
Suit to the Danes and the Swedes and everyone.
And I think that's the problem is. When I've been abroad recently, even their tracks have been slick.
Yeah.
And you think, wow, okay, maybe this is where even our grippy tracks that aren't as grippy as when I rode.
No.
And you think, well, actually, this is where we're going wrong is in the UK. Make them completely slick.
Yeah.
Then we're on a level playing field when we go abroad.
Yeah, I mean, then the only difference then is obviously the engine set up and everything else goes through the track sizes. But if you're riding the same surface, you have a similar sort of idea and setup.
Absolutely.
Exactly. But then obviously moving on to 94, Eastbourne managed to win the Knockout Cup. in an eventful road to the Cup final, if I remember rightly, including a replay against Kings Lynn, and things like that. Again, a good meeting, good for the fans, and good for Eastbourne, because obviously near enough that the whole team was local, and things like that back at that time. What sort of memories do you have of that sort of the win the Knockout Cup and things like that?
I remember more about the 85, 86 ones with Mildenhall.
Yeah.
Than I do of the latter ones.
Okay.
Just purely because I just don't remember.
No, fair enough.
I think lots more have gone on in my life that have taken over now. I think there's only a small amount in my brain that can take Speedway.
Fair enough. It depends how much you can remember a process, but
that's it. That's right.
I mean, obviously the cup final was against Crayley that year. It was a good. I think it was a good atmosphere and a good buzz about it and all that sort of things. Again, it's another meeting I've got on DVD and I've watched back several times.
Yep.
But it's again atmosper, and things like that.
Was that when we rode in November, the 1st of November or 2nd of November?
No. That was Mildenhall, if I remember rightly.
Against Crayley, we rode against Crayley because because Dino was getting married and he had to postpone that, didn't he?
Oh yeah, I think the first leg was meant to be. I think it was meant over one weekend, end of October, and Crayley fixture got rained off.
Yeah,
and Eastbourne went ahead on the Sunday, and then I think it must have been beginning of November when the second leg was.
Yeah, I think we went to Crayley on the Saturday and Eastbourne on the Sunday.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's something like that. You see, you do remember some stuff.
Yeah, I do remember. It's funny, I do remember stuff that's not very important.
Well, it is important to some people.
That's right.
But then obviously 95 and 96 was the amalgamation of basically the big league, the Premier League. And obviously great for Eastbourne to win it in 95 and win the Premier League. But do you think that was a good move for Speedway then to go into one big league in 95?
I think that's what they need to do now. I think it was the saving of Speedway at that time. There's nothing worse than when you go and flick the TV on to watch Speedway on TV to find that it's Wolverhampton Bellevue, and last week it was Bellevue Wolverhampton. And then again it's Wolverhampton Bellevue. I think it just gets so tedious to see the same name team.
Yeah.
But actually not all the riders there anyway.
Yeah.
So I think Speedway it would have been a perfect opportunity for them during this COVID to turn around and rewrite the whole rule book. If you don't like it, don't ride it. Exactly.
Because a lot of the rules in the rule book nowadays are dated anyway.
Absolutely.
And things like that, because it's not moved with how Speedway's moved.
No.
Mind you, I still personally think that England is way behind the times with a lot of things anyway. And they've only had, since the pandemic, to realise how far behind they are. I mean, it's even saying things like the rider shortage and things like that. If you look 5-10 years ago, they had British riders snapping at their heels to be progressed through. And I know that for a fact from the juniors up to National League or Conference League as it was then. And none of us sort of were able to progress because the people in the Conference League and National League weren't allowed to go up to the Premier League because of whatever.
They've made all these rules and regulations, but actually shot themselves in the foot. But,
exactly.
That's us talking, isn't it? What do we know?
Oh yeah, we know nothing. Nothing. Exactly. But going back to 95, obviously it must have been good for you to go back to some of the old second division tracks, Middlesbrough, Edinburgh and places like that then at that time.
Yeah, and it was nice just to go back once.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you used to go to Newcastle and you think, wow, what a rough, bumpy track that was. But you've only got to go round it 5 times.
Exactly.
As in 5 races, that's it.
Yeah.
Pack your stuff away and never come back again for another year. And I think that's the problem is that as a Speedway rider, you tend to be very, very finicky on what's good, what's bad.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to go. That needs to go out the window. You need to go to these rough tracks. And I think that's the problem is a lot of the foreigners are riding the English tracks in the in the second league.
Yeah.
And they're getting used to it.
Mm.
So when they go home and they're riding their nice big fast tracks, they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
When we go there, it's like, wow, Christ, they're going fast, but they've built all the confidence up because they've been banged around on our little tracks.
Exactly. So that they're equipped to ride any shape or any size, any track conditions. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that completely. But again, what do we know in Speedway?
That's right.
But and I mean, then obviously, I think also that year you won the Knockout Cup, but not with Eastbourne. I think you won it with Bradford in '95, didn't you? As a guest.
At was it at Bellevue we won it?
I think it might have been. I can't remember without looking it up. But
yes, I think that sort of rings a bell. I had a brilliant meeting as well.
Yeah, yeah. Guesting and still, you did the dumbbell in your own personal way. You know?
Yeah, I think the problem being is I had some really good tracks that I was really good at. I had some that I was woeful at.
Yeah.
But the good ones outweighed the bad ones. Hence the fact that we was doing all right. But I had a good meeting at Bellevue. I'm sure it was at Bellevue that night.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because even Javi couldn't believe how good I was, because Javi had only ever seen me at Eastbourne, which I was untouchable most of the time, or I went to Bradford when I was absolutely woeful. So, unfortunately for Javi, he see the other side of me as well.
Yeah, to see on the neutral track, to see.
That's right.
Well, yeah, this guy's still got some good talent. You know, he can do it.
Believe it or not, he can do it.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. But then obviously in '96, it was the battle of the upright and the laydown at that time. Because obviously '95, you couldn't ride the laydown in the British League. It was the only league in the world you couldn't ride a laydown in.
Well, I when I went to the World Final in '92, I had a laydown then.
Did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Couldn't use it and get the carburation to sort, but I had one because that was the way it was going to go then. And like you're right, unfortunately, it was. They tried to stop it here in the UK, and I think that was the biggest mistake. They put us another year behind.
Yeah, because again, Javi said on the interview I had with him, he felt like he was being penalised in the Grand Prix, because obviously he was in the Grand Prix at the time. And of course, most of the boys in there were using the laydown, like Rickardsson, Nilsson, Knudsen. Everyone was using the laydown, but you're getting confused between the upright and the laydown because you didn't know what worked. You didn't have time to test it and things like that. But how did you find the early days of the laydown? Did you enjoy using them?
I was very, very lucky. Neville Tatum sold me a engine that was one that Kelvin had been using.
Oh, yes.
It didn't suit Kelvin, but it was it was a dog of an engine to look at. But it was absolutely brilliant. Never had any carburetor problems, never had any problems at all. I just got on it and rode it, and it was probably the only Jawa I ever rode. And it's brilliant. I loved it. I never had any problems with it.
Oh, that's good.
And I think that for me, that was quite an easy transformation from one to another, because it was a bit of the weight of the old engine that was just laid down, not like it is now, where the ones that they lay down are so light flywheels and a bit twitchy. Mine was the same as it had ever been. So I had a really good year on that.
So was it an upright conversion, or was it just a straight laydown then?
Upright conversion, yeah.
Ah, there you go then. That's the secret.
That's it.
Yeah, the old uprights, took ages to blow up. But it must have been like different to ride then on the English tracks more than anything.
To me, it was the same.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I'd always had GMs before, and then I changed to a Jawa, so I wasn't sure whether it was because it was a Jawa laydown or a Jawa engine.
Yeah.
That until obviously the GMs got sorted out, and then obviously once they were sorted, we went back. Everybody then moved back to GMs, and I presume that's where most people are now.
I think, well, it's probably safe to say that 99% of riders, I think, apart from if they're on a GTR,
that's it.
Things like that.
Freddie was good on his GTR, and the new Fleming engine's out, isn't it?
Yes, it is out. Yes, and obviously you've got Godden. Gordon's doing a good work down there, which obviously ex factory rider, Gordon, right. And things like that. But because I've been to Gary's because he used to do my engines, and still see a Martin Dugard racing sticker on the door.
Well, some things never die.
No, exactly, very true, very true. But no, it's that sort of thing in Speedway now is what it needs, is the variety, even when it comes to tyres. I mean, the stupid row last year with the analysts and things like that, it is stupid.
How stupid is that? England are the only the only country that are allowed to use the analyst tyre. Yeah. So when everybody goes abroad, they know that it's not the same tyre as they're riding abroad, because that one was too soft. So again, we're on the back foot.
Yeah, I think it's a case of it's not looking at what Europe has, and then converting it to what we can do over here, sort of thing, more than anything.
Well, I think, unfortunately, it is. I can moan till I'm blue in the face. Not one person would ever listen to me.
No, I know. But again, it's politics, and politics isn't always fun to talk about.
No, definitely not.
No, but also again, going back to your own racing career, 1997, it was again knockout cup win, for Eastbourne against Poole, in a very I think good home win. I think it was like 50 points won at home, something like that. Because I was obviously
a bit close there though, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it was like 6 points, something like that. Eastbourne, I think you won down there. I can't remember if you won down there. No, but that was obviously the time when Dino got injured in '97, and that was a bit of a nasty crash. Do you remember much about that crash?
Not really. It was just one of those things. It was. To be fair, didn't have my glass on. It was the other end of the track. So I couldn't really see it.
It was all blur.
It was just an unfortunate accident, and I think they've changed the rules and regulations, so that can't happen with the mud guards now.
Yeah.
And you saw the same with Greg when his hand went into the back wheel.
Yeah.
So he was sort of pulled through as a single arm.
Yeah.
Went through elbow first, and then he had his sort of lower arm and upper arm wedged in the back. My God, that's what did the damage. That's what broke the arm at the top. But he for looking back on it now, Dean does remarkably well for the use of his arm that he has, and it hasn't sort of really stopped him. Obviously, it stops him doing some things, but to carry on racing as he did was a big hats off to him. And working with him as I've done in the past, you can see that actually he is unable to do certain things.
Yeah, and I mean, like I say, hats off to him to even get back on the bike and just turn and ride, let alone hold his own for many, many years after that, really.
Yeah, he did well.
Yeah, but also in '97, you appeared on a certain TV show. I've got to bring this up. You appeared on You Bet, wasn't it? Was it '97?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was around that time, because obviously then after you did that, when you first went into Brighton, did the indoor.
Yeah, I think the You Bet thing come across was we was asked to go there. We had no idea what they just was trying to put something out there.
Yeah.
To see what was it like. Whether or not we could use whether or not they could do anything with a speedway bike, and that inside a small arena they didn't know.
Yeah.
So I was getting changed. We started Stefan Anderson, who was with us at the time, and he just went sort of where he was, dropped the clutch, the bike spun round as it was, and it popped a tennis ball, and it disappeared down this big unit.
Oh right.
So, but someone saw it, so they said, "Well, can you do that with like a football?" It's like, yeah, well, it wouldn't be too hard. It's obviously, but the problem being is what people don't realise. We had a practice before.
Yeah.
And they put all the time. Like I had a special mudguard that had a silicone spray can inside it.
Oh yeah.
When you open the throttle, it just pressed the top of the can and just sprayed silicone spray all over the tyre because you could not slide otherwise.
Yeah.
So they we did the test and I got 5 out of 5. I thought, oh, this is easy. Come to the evening show because it was the last one on the show. I couldn't get. I think we got maybe 1 in because the bloke who was putting the ball back on the floor wasn't putting it on the right marker.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And because I was going round, I couldn't change any direction in which way I was going to hit it because I would have ended up in the grandstand because it.
I see.
It looked quite big on the TV, but actually it was minute.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then obviously that then went from there to we could run something indoors.
Yeah, sort of like a light bulb sort of moment. Then
that's right.
Something could happen.
That's how the Brighton Centre started.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I did put a thing out on Facebook to try and find footage of that You Bet thing. I've never seen it, so I would like to. No, I've never seen it, so I'd like to have seen that. But I mean, then obviously, then it spawned the indoor Brighton Bonanza. Was Brighton your first choice then to go to, or did you think about going anywhere else for like an indoor meeting?
No, it was talking to John Cook about it, and Cookie said, "Oh well, the Brighton Centre's big enough." I'm like, I'd never ever been inside the Brighton Centre.
Okay, yeah.
So it was like, well, we're going to have a look. So we sort of wandered in like a couple of ruffians out the back, pulled up, and we was only talking about it the other day, me and John, when I turned around and said to John, if we had to do the indoor back in Brighton now, we would never ever pass any health and safety.
Really?
What you need now to get into the centre, to work with all the machines on there, the weight, the calculation. We rough calculated it, and the bloke went on face value.
Oh, right.
So we was really lucky, and that went for X amount of years, and then until the Brighton Centre decided that they were going to change themselves into a eco-friendly centre.
That's fair enough.
That's why we had to stop.
Yeah, so then obviously that's definitely a no-no to ever sort of really going back there then. So
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely a no-go.
yeah, but then I think, wasn't it really the only motorsport event that was really taking place at the Brighton Centre really over that sort of time?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so you were the exception to the rule for so many years.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
That's just the way it fitted perfectly in with the Speedway, and it fitted perfectly in with us.
Yeah.
It was hard work.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine it was, 2 or 3 days putting in, taking out, and riding in your case, for most of the years.
Yeah, I think the thing was, it was the adrenaline that kept us going for that one. But as soon as we finished, and then obviously taking all the equipment out, putting it all back in its place where it all come from. When we finished, like on the Monday night, maybe Tuesday morning.
Yeah,
me and John were absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, you needed like 2 weeks just to recover from it, sort of thing.
We probably started getting organised on the Wednesday, loading stuff up. For it to be that the shale had sat in a pile at the stadium once we'd taken it off the Speedway track for probably maybe 6 weeks.
Okay.
Before it went into the stadium, because it came from the stadium, was piled up, then it had to go to the Robins to be all broken down into a fine sort of material, so that when we put it on the track, we was able to grade it and then pack it down.
Oh, okay, that makes
Otherwise,
sense.
we would never have got it to sat on the floor.
Because obviously at that time it was on wooden boards, wasn't it? Well, for the first few years.
Yeah, we tried it. We had terrible trouble the first year where it kept moving, where we put it on some sheeting.
Okay.
And then we put some boards around the outside of the room to give it a bit more of a secure linking to the walls.
Yeah.
So we was able to put the fence onto that. By the 9th year, we managed to suss it.
Yeah, it was the last one, and I got it. But also that was, cause obviously I think the first few years you ran the normal Speedway tyres, which obviously dug the track out like there was no tomorrow, really.
Yeah. The first year we did was the Speedway tyres, and then obviously we decided that everyone's going, use road tyres. So we managed to get, I think we had to get 20 road tyres. Which we did, and they were so good. We used them year after year after year until the last one, and then we just let the riders take them home with them. Yeah. And whatever we had left, Martin Hagen used Lakeside for his junior track.
Oh, okay. Well, keep using them. Yeah. Kept getting used. Yeah, because I think I remember going over to Eddie Kennett's one time to pick some stuff up, and he saw his road tyre there. I thought, I recognise that's Brighton tyre. That is.
Yeah. Ed was too busy softening his one.
No, I'm not going to say nothing. No, but I mean, looking back at it, do you think it was a good thing to do for Speedway then, just to keep enthusiasm?
I think it was good for John and me.
Yeah.
It kept our interest in it. It was good for Speedway because it was the only thing going around the country at that time. It was a perfect time of the year for everybody to meet everybody before Christmas.
Yep.
So it had lots of good feelings about it, and people were allowed to come down for the weekend. Brighton wasn't that expensive during the winter because the hotels weren't always full up. So yeah, it was good for Brighton, good for me and John, and good for the Speedway supporters. So everyone was a winner.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, then that was your sort of first interlude into promotion. Okay, maybe on a smaller scale than what you went into.
Yeah, well, but to be fair, John did most of the admin work and the promotion side of it. I just made sure everything from the track went in, all the electrics, all the track, and everything went back out again. Yeah. And that's sort of my forte, and John's is promoting it and doing the paperwork.
But I can imagine your first ride around Brighton was a bit daunting,
Yeah, it was slightly different.
Yeah.
And I think it was a couple of years I ended up in the bike, and I ended up near enough in the front grandstand.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, I think it worked well for what it was. It's just unfortunate. It would have been nice for it to have been supported just that little bit more. Yes, that we had sort of 3,500 people there, but to have a full house of 5,000 would have been fantastic.
Yeah,
maybe just being greedy. I don't know.
No, but then again, you think you like it's their year in year out annual event. People will sort of want to go to it. I mean, of course, you managed to bring over Kelly Moran to have a go at it. You know, okay, it was a great crowd puller, but unfortunately, racing wise, it wasn't quite right for Kelly. But
no, Kelly. Kelly was a little bit unusual. Is that really he knew that it was his last time he was going to come to England.
Yeah.
We didn't know that at the time. And then obviously when he come over, he met a lot of people that he hadn't met before. Of course, everybody, all right, can he have a drink? So before you know it, Kelly was absolutely paralytic in a bar hotel under the table.
Oh, okay. I never knew that.
yeah. So, but that's we had to make sure that, I think it was Billy Gennaro was riding the same meeting, that we loaded Kelly up and put him in the van to go back to up north somewhere.
Ah, okay. And that's it.
Otherwise, Kelly would still be here now.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay. I think you managed to do Telford once as well, didn't you, in your riding career?
I did Telford in '86, I think. And then I'm not sure if I went back or not, but I know I did Milton Keynes.
Oh, okay.
The ice meeting at Milton Keynes, I know I did that one. And that was about it, really.
Yeah. Did you enjoy doing the ice meetings, or was it just a bit of fun?
I think it's just a little bit of fun, really. It was, the thing about it, it was purely down to starting. And it was just a technique that I didn't have, and lots of good riders never had it.
No.
Andy Campbell had it off to a T, but didn't really suit me.
No.
So.
Well, no. It's another fun event, because if you look back at what it was, you used to have, wasn't it, the Burn Up on November, Brighton December, New Year Classic on the January, and then Telford February. Right. So you think that of what Speedway was, again, it's that sort of thing we think we need back at some stage. But But you never know; could happen in the future. Well, but a little bit hopeful.
Yeah.
But and I mean, I think also you did, wasn't it Docklands as well? Did you do? I did the Docklands. That was 1990, I think. Yeah, on the concrete, wide open track.
Yeah, that's it. But the problem being there was you couldn't slide the bike.
Oh, right. It didn't varnish the floor or anything like that, then?
Well, I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I knew that when you dropped the clutch, you spun up, and then when you stopped and backed off the throttle, you took off at a million mile an hour. I know Dino said to me, "Oh, can I use your race suit from Bradford?" I'm like, yeah, no problems at all. It was ruined. I'd never, ever got the tyre marks off it.
Jeez.
Because he just crashed on every turn. Because it didn't suit Dean the way you had to come in and spin the wheel to get it round. But fair play to him. He had a go.
Yeah, and ruined your leathers in the process.
That's it.
Yeah, but you still cry about that now, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, but move back onto the Speedway front. Obviously, then 98 again was another year of Eastbourne when you had Javi in the team. Was that a big relief to have someone like Javi in the team at Eastbourne in your point in your career?
Not really.
No. Okay.
I think to have different faces is always good, and their outlook on Speedway and the way they approach it is always good. To me, it didn't really make that much difference because I knew how good Gary was, and I know what his mentality was. So he was one of them that he needed Speedway to live, and he was full out to get what he really wanted. And I think it was good for the club, but I think unfortunately he lived too far away. Yeah, and I think he said when I interviewed him, he said it didn't really suit him, Eastbourne, in the end. I think he tried. I think he had one good meeting. It was the first one of the year. Scored like 15, 16 points, and then sort of slowly it went downhill after that. Yeah. Really after that. But also that was the year of the team suits, the lycra. Yeah, the colours and the helmet colours. I mean, what did you think of that sort of thing at the time? Do you think it was good, or did you think it was just a joke sort of thing? The principle was right. Yeah. Because they was trying to get the fans to buy all the clothing, so it was another income for whoever it was at the time. But the problem being was the material they used was completely wrong. They should have gone to team suits, but they knew that was going to be expensive. Yeah. The principle was right, the idea was right, but the material and the approach of it was completely wrong. Yeah, because I've got one of the Mark II ones, right. And I never knew how thin they were until I actually felt it in my hand. I thought, and they rode this for a season. You think? Yeah, but they were on the outside of your leathers. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So obviously you had your leathers on that were stopping any air coming through, or your Kevlar as it was, and then followed by this bloody great thing that stretched on you that was as slippery as hell off the seat. It wasn't the right thing to have, but who knows? Who knows? They may even go back to that.
Yeah, they could do. But then obviously, I think you had your one from NJK, I think, and everything that year. You, Dave Norris, I think, because obviously, I think Eastbourne colours were like obviously the yellow and the blue, and then obviously you probably had fluorescent colours.
Yes, but no one said, they just said yellow. So I had yellow. Mine was fluorescent yellow to everybody's mustard yellow.
Yeah.
But that suit ended up that was a good suit, and in the end, I had that all cut down and restitched, and Ed Kennett had it.
Yeah, because I've seen pictures and videos of Ed riding in it. I always wondered if it was your suit or it was his own personal suit.
Yeah, no, it was my one that he had.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's cool. But then obviously in '98, you managed to make your Grand Prix sort of debut at Coventry.
Yep.
What was your sort of memories of that sort of meeting?
It was one of the longest days of my life. I mean, because I was, I think at that time, 23, 24 in the list as reserve. You was first up on the list. So 8 o'clock in the morning, you had to be at the stadium. Crazy. So it's like, okay, by the time everybody organised, you do your bike check, come 8:30, 9 o'clock, you was all done. So you had to wait from 9 o'clock in the morning till 7:30 at night. And it was like, wow. And then obviously I think I seized up or had an engine failure while qualifying.
Yeah.
But that's just one of those things that just haunts you forever of how long a day it was.
For only 2 rides, and then go home sort of thing. Yeah.
That's right.
You know in your heart of hearts that you're much better than that and you can mix it with those sort of boys.
Yeah, but the way the format was, and I think the format's quite good.
Yeah.
A lot of riders mixing it all up, and before you, like, especially like the one I won, I think people didn't really expect that.
No.
But it was a bit of a shock for them, I've got to say, and for me.
Yeah, but not a nice shock, obviously.
Yes, obviously,
shock. Yeah. But obviously after that 98 year, 99 was the year of TV coming into the Elite League. Eastbourne changed their track. Now, I always wondered this. Is it a case of the fact that it was your dad's idea to change track, or was it just like a rider's idea to change track?
We always had the problem with Eastbourne being too narrow going into the first turn and coming out the first turn.
Yeah.
We knew somewhere along the line that there was going to be some alteration within the regulations. It had to be a certain width. Mm-hmm. So we said, well, why don't we just dig our own white line and see if we can make it? Because I know that Dean had been to Voyens and Ollie Olsen had tried it where he made a sort of near enough a complete sort of diamond as it was in the turns. So Dean said how different that was. Mm. So we tried it ourselves, and that's what we did. And obviously the rest is history. It stayed there, and yes, it opens up a few more lines around the place. But it's a lot. Eastbourne's a lot easier to ride now than it was way back in 85, 86.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you that. Which one did you prefer, the newer shape or the old shape?
Didn't really matter if I was in front.
Yeah, well, it's easier when you're out in front, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's always been one of my things, because I've always said I would like to have tried the old shape myself as a rider, to obviously do, again, a compare and contrast. Because obviously, I've only ever ridden the shape it is now. And obviously, it is a good shape. It is awkward to learn because it comes to a point.
Yeah.
But once you master it, it is a really good track to ride.
I think the problem being is previously it was very much a one-line track. Mm. But the problem being is if you was riding that fast line, you was always going to be in trouble. You would never get past. And it wasn't very entertaining for anybody to watch then.
Yeah. But did you feel like you lost your home track advantage for a season, though, really?
Not really.
No. Okay. No, because obviously, Eastbourne struggled that year in '99. I think it was second from bottom. They finished in the end, something like that. Because obviously,
I had a good year, though.
Yeah, you had a tremendous year, I think, up to a point. But I think we should just touch on the Ando incident, because obviously I know I've heard your side of it so many times now. But do you remember much of that actual meeting at all, or any of the incidents that happened?
Don't remember anything about the meeting. Obviously, and a couple of days after. Obviously, Steph and I come to blows with Stefan. He didn't really have much choice about what was going to happen. I think looking back now is that anybody that knew me knew that something was going to happen because I'm that sort of person. I'm quite fiery.
Yeah.
The incident, whether it was Stefan's fault or my fault between us, it was an incident that happened. And I think that's when people sort of sat back and oh, well, it'd be all right. But yeah, I don't remember much about it. And I remember seeing the footage of it. And yeah, that the rest is history. It's sort of, I went quiet on it. Stefan went quiet on it. I spoke to Stefan and apologised for him. Lots went on in the background. Stefan was being helped, should we say, by Mike Weston, whose wife is Swedish.
Okay.
So she was saying, "Oh, you can do this, you can do that," and Stefan went along with it. There are a few things that they told Stefan that he could do. Stefan unfortunately put it in some black and white writing to me in a fax machine. I then had to go and take it to my solicitor because it was getting a bit nasty like that. My solicitor turned around and said, "That's fine. We can ask whether he's paying tax or VAT on this money in his country." We never heard any more about it.
Okay, so sort of like went underneath the carpet a little bit then.
Yeah, because I think the problem being is the people thought that they could turn around and try and get a load of money out of myself because of what I did to Stefan.
Yeah.
They put a huge amount into it, a lot more than what obviously Stefan. Yes, he missed a few meetings, and he obviously wasn't feeling very well.
Yeah,
but they were quite well enough to, how would you say, exaggerate his earnings as it was.
Yeah.
So he put it in some a fax to me of how much he had lost, which we accept that he probably did lose something along them lines, but not with the extra noughts on it.
Yeah.
So that's fine. My solicitor turned around and say, right, he's doing you for blackmail. End of story. Never heard nothing from it.
But did the ACU and the BSPA get involved then? We're saying that.
No. Obviously, unfortunately for me, it was live on TV.
Yeah.
I went to a hearing in, I think it was Cobham Way. Myself and John Cook went up there because the way the rule book was written at that time, it was that John had paid my fine on the night straight away.
Yeah.
And I went. They took me to court as the ACU did, and they sat down and my solicitor turned around and he said, "Well, you can't do him for double jeopardy because you've already done him." That was it. End of it. That was the whole case over. We asked for our costs to be paid, which they had to pay for as well. So that was like rubbing salt into the wounds.
Yeah.
But it had got so far out of hand that it was maybe that's what should have happened.
Yeah.
So I did a deal with Stefan that Sky wanted to do an interview with us. They bought the rights off us. Me and Stefan, we had £1,000 each out of it.
Well,
where everyone was a winner then, unfortunately for Stefan, being pushed down the route, because Stefan isn't that sort of person.
No.
He was living with me a couple of years before that, no problem at all. He had signed for Kings Lynn. It made no difference, but to be pushed the way he was being pushed wasn't the way Stefan worked. And I think he thought that actually maybe he was a little bit naughty with what he was doing.
Yeah, but like you said, he'd probably been pushed by, like I say, Mike Weston and other people around him, into a situation that he didn't want to do. He was probably happy just to say, "Okay, Martin's apologised. The fine's been paid. Move on." Kiss
and make up.
Yeah, exactly. Simple as that, really. But then after that, obviously, 2000 was a good year for Eastbourne and yourself, apart from one meeting when you crashed out at Coventry.
Yeah.
But we'll come to that in a minute. But going into 2000, what was your sort of mental attitude of it? Was it a case of that you had a lifeline from 99 then, or
they were going to put a ban on me to stop me riding? That was what we heard. None of it had come out because obviously they had preempted that before. And yeah, we heard that they were looking at maybe 1 year ban, 5 years suspended, or whatever it was. So was a little bit of a lifeline, was a big sigh of relief. So I thought, right, I knuckled down this year. Was, again, not the most popular speedway rider in the world, but that didn't worry me. So I went to a lot of places, had a good year, and then rolled on obviously had a good Grand Prix, and that was all history, really.
Yeah, but I mean, biggest achievement, like you said earlier, it's like your world final, your world champion sort of thing. You beat the best in the world on one night, so you can kind of say in a way you're a world champion,
Well, I say that to the kids and the missus all the time. But no, I yes, you could look at it and say, yeah, that was how Gary Avalot won his one 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
To me, it was a world final. But I was at the right place, right time. People broke down. I managed to go through. And I just made the right choice. Even when I walked up to the starting gate in heat 24,
something like that,
yeah. I offered Mark Laram what gate he wanted because I knew that he needed points to go and carry on to win the world final.
Yeah.
And he said, no, mate, you should take what you want.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been a kind of a weird situation because obviously you want to help Mark because obviously a good friend of yours and English teammate, you want to see him achieve what he's set out to achieve, but also you want to do well for yourself.
Yes, yeah. But the thing was, couldn't have done everything, but at least I offered,
Yeah.
And then if anything went wrong, it would have been, you made that choice. But it's better that he goes on to be world champion because you helped him.
Yeah,
but exactly. he just said, no, you just take your life.
But then again, that could be the racer in Mark saying, I want to race for it rather than sort of do that sort of thing. But because obviously I know Colin really well, your ex-mechanic and everything. And I think we've had regular discussions about the past with you two and all that sort of thing. And of course, talking about the British Grand Prix, was that you ran out of tyres.
Yeah, we never really experienced that or expected that we would go that far. And through our experience would be that we would just turn a wheel around and just use the spare one, or that tyre's not too bad. But the way Coventry was the track that night, we was chewing tyres out like there was no tomorrow. And you think, well, one race isn't really going to destroy it. But actually, when you turn up at the starting grid and everybody's got a new tyre on and you're on a used one, it's a bit of a mental thing.
Yeah.
So, we borrowed one in the end.
Yeah, was it from Todd Wiltshire?
Yeah, through Marvin Cox.
Yeah, Marvin. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Again, another guy who's helped you out a lot during your own career and things like that. But I mean, it must have been a fantastic feeling to win a Grand Prix, especially the British Grand Prix.
I think it's a pinnacle of everything, really. And it's you can't get better than that. And obviously. Not a day goes past when I don't think about it, Neil.
Yeah, I know. You relive that race every day, every month.
That's right. But no, it's like everything again for me. Yes, I won the Grand Prix, but could I really remember what was going on? It all becomes a bit of a fuzz.
Yeah. I can imagine it just sort of like blends into sort of one sort of thing after a while. Because it's just another meeting.
Yeah, just another good meeting.
Yeah, another good meeting and a nice trophy to have in the cabinet.
That's right.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Get Sarah to polish it now and again.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, and then obviously I think the Sunday was done at Eastbourne the next day. And obviously the crowds came in to that meeting. I think it was against Coventry or someone like that. So it must have been good to then have the old victory parade around Arlington.
The funny thing was the engine I used at Coventry was the same engine I used at Eastbourne the next day. But we had to take the engine apart after the meeting. For them to measure it, to make sure that it was 500cc. So by the time we put it back together, it really should have had a new set of piston rings and valve springs put in it for the next day. But we just didn't. A, we weren't that worried, and B, it sort of done its day. So the next day was a bit of a disappointment for what you'd done the night before. But it's one of those things, and we live and learn.
Exactly, but then again, you've hit the pinnacle of your career with that win. And it's a big come down to come back down to Eastbourne and ride a normal league match anyway, regardless of what sort of state the engine's in.
That's right.
But and I mean, obviously, again, Eastbourne won the league in 2000. You didn't ride in the ground in the final, or whatever you want to call it, because you had a small get off at Coventry, shall we say, in the World Team Cup.
Yeah, I unfortunately hit a big hole going in the turn. Forks bottomed out. I hit the floor. Broke the AC joint broke my collarbone and the AC joint on my shoulder. So was one of those things, and a good year turns out to be a bad year, but then win the league and becomes a good year again.
Yeah, it was, and I think he managed to get out before the end of the season anyway to get a few meetings, or one or two. I think you did at the end of 2000, which was again good to see that you could get back on the bike and just do laps and race and things like that again. Yeah, so prepare yourself for the 2001 season, which obviously was your final year. So
yeah, well, I'd already made a decision after Coventry that I wasn't going to do the 2001.
Oh, okay.
So, but Cookie talked me into it, and I've got to say it was one of the worst years racing because I knew I was going to finish, but I hadn't told anybody I was going to finish until later on during the year.
Yeah. So sort of like a calculated move to say, "Oh, well, I'm stopping," sort of.
There's nothing calculated about me at all. it was, it was. We knew what was going on, and it was. All right, you need to buy this for your bike. You need to buy that. No, I don't really.
No, you just need something to get you by more than anything.
Yeah, that's as it went on.
And obviously, you managed to get a wild card for Cardiff. So I can imagine that was quite good. That was a good experience to say you rode at Cardiff.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously, I think it would have been disappointed if I hadn't have been given the chance. But that didn't go to plan. That was a completely, how would you say, nightmare of a meeting, nightmare to ride in. Setup was completely different to what I'd ever had before. And I think the only people that were going to make that meeting work were the out-and-out professional people.
So like the top 8, for example, those sort of riders would have made the track work then.
Yeah, well, I think they once they'd done practice, they had 3 or 4 engines sitting in the back of their vans, saying, right, well, this what works indoors. And what I didn't realise before was when we did the practice before, they have the roof open for practice.
Okay.
And when they have the meeting, they close the roof.
Yeah.
So you've got lots of things going on in the atmospheric conditions. You've got all the gas blowers that are blowing hot air or hot gas out when they go over the finishing line.
Yeah.
Because you can feel that when you're close to them. You've got 40,000 odd people all breathing in and out. So obviously that's taking all the oxygen out of the air.
Yeah.
And all those sort of things that you have to sort of prepare your bikes for. It's very similar to when you ride at Mildenhall.
Yeah.
You're very level at Mildenhall, not that many metres above sea level. But there's no air around the place. You can see the trees around Mildenhall, all the air blows around Mildenhall, but actually nothing in the stadium.
No, true, very true.
And that's what you find with Cardiff. But obviously, didn't even think about it at that time because it was just completely out of our league.
Well, it's completely brand new, wasn't it? So,
yes,
I mean, the only real experience I suppose you could pull from it is riding at the Brighton Bonanza, doing an indoor meeting that way. But then that's a complete different thing again, probably.
Absolutely,
yeah. Because obviously, then again, that's indoors. But then, even with the roof on or off, it's going to be different anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, same. Yeah.
But I think didn't you end up sort of like almost crashing out the me? I think you clashed with Matty Furrion or something like that. Did you?
I broke a toe at the end of the meeting, but for whatever I scored a couple of points, I don't think it was worth worrying about anyway.
Fair enough, but no. But you can always say that you've rode at Cardiff.
That's right.
You can say. I mean, okay, it was the very first one, and of course, it was all alien to everybody. But
absolutely. But again, it's history for me. Is that it was the first indoor meeting in the world, wasn't it, at that time?
Yeah, exactly. Very much so, and you were part of it. So there you go. But obviously 2001 was a bit of a mixed year for Eastbourne as a club. But yourself, you still had a reasonably good year. I think you got like another 8-point average, something like that. You finished on. So it was a good year for yourself to say farewell. And I think you took a lot of guest bookings that year, if I remember rightly. Oh yeah,
I was just doing as much as I could because I knew that'd be the last time I'd been there. But it again, you have different feelings for everywhere you go. When you close the van door and say goodbye to everybody, we knew that it was the last time we was going to see those people properly.
Yeah.
So to us, it's like, thank God for that. But in other tracks, it was like, oh, that's a shame. But that's just the way we were. Did it feel weird to you at all that you're going to these places for the last time as a rider? Not really. No. Okay. If it was a good meeting, I was pleased to leave every time. So, but no, I have to say there isn't that many tracks that I wasn't pleased to walk away from.
Mm.
The Peterborough, I hated the place.
Yeah.
Absolutely hated it. That was like, thank God for that, we're leaving. But places like Bellevue, Kirkenshaw Lane, that was like, can we come back in next week?
Yeah. I suppose that sort of track would suit you because it's, again, a technical track, a tight track and things like that. So it's like Eastbourne, near enough.
Yes, and obviously the new Coventry, when they changed it from the big round Coventry to the new shape Coventry, was perfect for me. I couldn't believe how lucky I was.
Fell on your feet again.
That's it.
But did they sort of like the track changes at these tracks? Did it make much of a difference to yourself then as you approach these ones, or is it just like go ride your bike?
Just go and ride my bike. Okay, do the best you can. Go home.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And then what will be will be.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that's interesting to know because obviously a lot of people like to know what your sort of approaches were and that sort of thing to these sort of different changes in the sport more than anything.
It's like everything. If you don't change, you don't go with anybody. You just sit there and fester and go backwards.
Yeah. Because
everybody that's going that way, they will go forward eventually. And that's what they've done.
And eventually catch up with you.
Yeah.
But obviously, then after 2001, then you sort of hovered around Eastbourne doing bits and pieces. I think you were doing odds and sods sort of jobs and things like that. And then all of a sudden, you sort of vanished away from the track a little bit. Was that a personal choice to do that sort of thing?
I think it just happened. It was just one of those things. It was Speedway has done it. I'd done my time with Speedway. New people were involved, as in riders that I didn't really know. And other things fill your life with the kids and bits and pieces like that.
Yeah.
Not that we did anything with them, but life changes, and before you know it, you've changed with them. And then all of a sudden you think, might just pop over the stadium today, and that's how it sort of happened, and sort of slowly moved back in without realising, being sort of sucked in. And then before you know it, you're back there full time.
Because of course, and that's when Connor and Kelsey decided to have a go at riding and things like that. I can imagine that was an interesting thing when they turned around and said, "Oh, can I have a go?" sort of thing.
It was like history repeating itself all over again.
But this time, you and your dad sort of thing, looking at them.
But the problem being was, when my dad helped me, he wasn't really that interested in helping me.
Okay.
Because he had other things on his mind. But when his grandkids want to go, completely different person.
We're completely interested.
We can help him. We can do this. And it's like, as in, let's rephrase that. Yeah. But no, he was very good. He's always been very good with all the grandchildren.
Yeah. But I mean, what was it? How did you sort of feel with like Kelsey and Connor said that they wanted to have a go, even at the junior track level, sort of thing?
It didn't worry me. I think the problem being is Connor realised that actually it is a lot of hard work, as in, you have to be quite stupid to go and ride a bike with brakes, or without brakes, should I say. Yeah. Kelsey never sort of registered with him because he just did it because Connor did it.
Yeah.
Connor sort of made his mind up quite quickly that it wasn't for him. Well, Kelsey is now 21, going 22.
Yeah. And
still realising, actually, I might be all right at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, is that he hasn't realised what entails for 2022 yet.
Exactly. But yeah, I know, because obviously seeing Kelsey and Connor ride both myself, and I think riding with them and things like that, it was obviously good to see the Dugard name out again, riding on the track and everything. Yeah. Of course, then when you took over the promotion in 2015, which I can imagine was a big shock to yourself more than anything.
Yeah, it was. We was just asked, would I be interested in running National League and only National League at Eastbourne in 2015, and Connor said, yeah, we could do that. I'm like, whoa, we. But I have to be fair, it was me, Sarah, Connor, we all took it over, not knowing anything about it. We knew how the stadium run, we knew roughly how Speedway run.
Yeah.
We jumped in feet first, and we had a good year. 2015, 2016 was better, 2017 was a good year, and 2018 was a very good year.
Yeah, sort of topped it off and finally win the league in 2018. So, yeah. But I mean, even before you took over the promotion, did you manage to see any National League sort of racing or anything like that before?
All I'd seen is like Midland Development League or anything like that. I had never seen any in National League.
So basically, you're going into it sort of blind then, really.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and then word of mouth of, okay, this guy's kind of good, this guy's not, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, fortunately for me, Connor had listened to people like Dave Mason who had sort of come along the line. So Dave Mason's been very good with us all.
Yeah, so that's the sort of person you needed to sort of guide you, really. And
Yes.
obviously then after that, then you learnt the way after that then, really.
Yeah, we quite quickly realised actually what works for us, what didn't work for us. Built some very good teams and that, and as soon as someone was injured, it wasn't, oh, stick with him, he'd be all right in a week's time, a month's time, 3 months' time. It was like, sorry, you got to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was. We needed to make sure that we didn't do the same mistakes other promoters have done, where they kept with the same people all the time.
Yeah, which is fair enough, because obviously, again, it's a business sort of thing. Yeah. So you got to keep the business rolling, and you got to keep it all flighting. Of course, that was the best time for a long time that Eastbourne had success. 4 years winning the National League Knockout Cup, and things like that. And obviously, then was it Trophy, Gold Cup, and everything else that you won in that.
So we won everything right the way across the board, from every bit of silverware there was, until we finished with the league in the end.
Yeah, it's obviously then that must have felt good to yourself to have that as a promoter, as well as the achievements you had in your own career.
Well, it was one of those things whether I just felt like we deserved this, and that's as it was.
And obviously, then in 2019, you and John Cook then went up to the championship.
Well, I wasn't involved with that.
I wasn't. Oh, okay.
No, nothing. 2019 was nothing to do with me. I had taken over the stadium with John, and John then decided halfway through the year, or come May time, that he couldn't have interest in Speedway and the stadium.
Okay.
So he stepped back from the Speedway, even though he was there and guiding people. He decided that it was better that we worked with the stadium, which we worked for a little while until he was kicked out of the stadium.
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, it must have been enjoyable just to do the next league up, to see again different people, different faces, and see how well the team could do.
Yeah, some of the older faces had come back that hadn't been there because they thought National League was like the juniors, as I did.
Yeah.
It was nice to see a few more extra people there, but to be honest, there wasn't as many people there as I thought there was going to be.
Yeah.
To know how much it costs to run Speedway at Eastbourne. So, I've got to say that I was a bit shocked towards the end of the season when the crowds went down slightly. But Ian knows what he's doing. He's a mathematician. He knows what he needs. So fair play to him. If he's going to run it in 2019, which he was hoping to, and now 2020.
Yeah.
2021.
2021, hopefully. Yeah. But I think if Speedway does run this year, it'd be nice just to see something on, I think. But then again, like we said earlier, it depends if it's going to be financial suicide just to even put one meeting on. But
I think that's the problem is for someone like Ian. He lives down in Devon.
Yeah.
He's got a long way to come just to see his little dream come true.
Yeah.
Swindon Club, that they've been very forward with everybody, told them what their plans are, and just hopefully Speedway will either sort itself out, or it should sit down, rewrite the rule book with the limitations of riders and what Poland have done, and then maybe the English teams can come back in and say, right, we're going to do this, this, and this. Put your hands up if you're in.
Yeah, exactly. Because obviously Glasgow did that last year. They announced, I think, in May, June time that they weren't going to run. Even if they had a small season, they weren't going to run at all. Because I think 6 of their 7 were non-English anyway.
Well, yeah, that is the problem. But the biggest problem being is there is not enough English people at the moment. Right.
Exactly. And not to a level that they think is good enough anyway to compete at without giving a real try. I mean, Eastbourne did well with Jason Edwards, putting him in for near enough the second half of the season.
Yeah.
And you saw by sort of the end of the season, he was on it with everybody. He improved a lot.
Yeah, he had improvement in him. I think Tom, obviously missing the year, he's got improvement in him as well. So, it just a question of we'll have to see what comes out of the woodwork. Yeah,
and I guess it's like everyone's just wait and see. Just wait and see and take it day by day. But it's been great talking to you tonight, Martin. It's been,
no worries, Neil.
It's...
you will never spend another couple of hours, just give us a call.
Yeah, we'll do. I'm sure I can dig something up to talk about, but no, mate, it's been good to hear your stories and everything and whatnot. But I'll just do my sign off, which is thanks to everyone who's been watching tonight, who's listening on the Spotify and the podcast and everything. Please go and check out the other episodes. They are all great. Everyone's story has been different. It's been great to hear. But tonight, thank you, Martin, for joining me tonight.